Okay.
And like the face is very strong, I think.
Where's
Okay.
the digital one of that? Because that's really pretty too.
There's a digital one in the hallway.
Is it still in the hallway?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you should take some colored ones.
That one?
I like this one. This looks like
I mean, just
you
for
did a
the
really good
contrast
job
and,
on this
like,
person
have something
with the
different.
shading.
And I like that.
One thing that you'll want to make some judgments about, because everybody that goes through this process has to think about this. If you've taken an image from somewhere, you're going to need to make sure that it's changed enough. How do we judge if it's been changed enough?
30%.
How do we measure 30%? I'm looking at you because you're the most uptight person in our department. How do you tell that something has been changed enough so that it can't be called plagiarism?
Until it is no longer recognized as the original.
Yeah, I think.
That's the way I look at it.
Well, I mean, we could ask what Andy Warhol
Sorry,
did,
just messing
right?
with you.
Know what Andy Warhol was a version of pop art, right? So it was posterization. It was considerably more stylized. However, there are still critics who think Andy Warhol copied pop culture
I would be
as
in
a
that.
statement.
I would be in that.
So see,
Okay.
even amongst 3 faculty members, you don't necessarily have, or 4, you don't
So-
have a consensus about.
So you want to ask yourself, what's the
appropriate.
purpose? What's the purpose of the art? Was it purpose to a commentary on the culture, which means you have to recognize the culture to comment on it, or is it to enhance your creative process? Okay, so if it's just basically accenting or enhancing what you have to say, then you need to make sure it's totally your own voice. So you need to change the style. So if you find something that's very slick and commercial, how are you going to make it what you have to say?
Ask yourself, what is it about the imagery that you're looking at that's inspiring you? What inspires you?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the subject matter? Is it the look in the eyes? Is it the texture? Is it the lighting? What is it that really inspires you? And take that piece and then do your own thing with it. That's what I mean when I say that it's no longer recognizable as the original. You know, and I understand what you're saying about Warhol. I mean, did his depictions of Marilyn Monroe look like the photos? No, because they were silk screened and repeated,
colored,
you know, and all that.
Decorated.
I'm guessing you may be taking issue with some of the other things that he pulled, some of his stunts.
Well, like
I just
the
think he was a
Campbells.
sensationalist. He was a salesman. He wasn't an artist. You know,
Salvador Dali was a sensationalist too, but maybe
his imagery,
work is more.
But his imagery was original. You know, Warhol just took, you know, soup cans and photos, and yeah, he silk screened them, but all his stuff was driven by hype. If he wasn't rubbing elbows with the rich and the famous, he never would have made it.
Sure. But you know, we have to recognize
Salvador Dali was selling chocolates.
As the scope of art history is concerned, pop art is definitely a genre of art.
Sure it is.
And so we have to think to ourselves, I don't see maybe Chris as being a pop artist. So we need to recognize that in the contrast of what he has done.
I'm trying to remember the origin of some of these. It seems like this is a very strong drawing. Just the technical skill, you really cannot get at a higher level than this with your technical skill. The contrast, the rendering of texture, it's beautiful. The very, very soft modeling. I'm a little concerned because you took this imagery from another skillfully rendered drawing. What's in the hallway has been changed quite a bit. I don't know if you can use it. So I'm not sure where I stand with this one. This one, if I'm remembering correctly, this is your own creation. You looked at a spacesuit and you looked at a horse. But the fact that you put these things together and then, you know, use the digital art to put it all together at the end. This is completely yours. This is a good candidate for your portfolio because I have no question about where that came from, and it's very creative. It's got all the technical skill that they're going to be looking for. It's a good package. This one right here. I can't remember this stuff. So, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot for all of it, but when you're making final decisions about what goes and what doesn't go. Think about the origin of the image. Think about what you used as a resource, and is it different enough? Just so that you're picking the ones that really reflect your abilities and your considerable imagination. I don't think I had a tenth of this level of imagination when I was in high school. I had the technical skill, but I didn't have the ability to sort of dream things up and put it down like this.
One thing I would like to hear from Chris is, have you thought about an artist statement? A statement that summarizes your philosophy. That's one thing that, as an artist, you really, if somebody says, "Oh, you're an artist, tell me about yourself," you should be able to say 2 or 3 sentences that summarize what your passion, what your purpose is, and something that unifies your talent. If there was a critique, a lot of times to get into like a BFA program, you're going to be in front of a jury, just like we're doing here, and you're going to have to defend your artwork. And so a lot of times you'll have little anecdotes about how you were inspired from certain pieces, but how does that tie into the overall theme of your work? And so that way it's a constant communication or a constant conversation that says, hey, this is part of this ongoing theme.
And if you can tie it to artists that you know, like I look at this, and we could talk about Rene Magritte's work, we could talk about the work of Georgia O'Keeffe, and I'm wondering if you were studying those artists and if that fed into this image. I don't know its origin, but I think of those artists, and if you're writing about your work or talking about your work, you're going to want to tie in those inspirations that brought you there. One of the things that's going to make your portfolio stand out is you have quite a bit of range here. You've got a drawing style that's very, very tight. I see it here, I see it here, and in just about everything here. And then you took this, and you were able to quickly create something that's very, very loose, very expressive, very strong. That's going to be helpful when they look at this stuff to see that you have this kind of range.
Yeah, I think one of the things I notice is that you really have a very good sense of graphic design. And when you combine your natural talents and, drawing with, I can see the graphic design elements, it really does show a style that I think that you're developing. And I don't know if you've been able to put those into words, but you might, research to see, who might be inspirational in that direction. Because I really see in several of your pieces, in the history of your work, where you've taken maybe a drawing or, and married it with a graphic of some sort. And it's something that I think if you were to have a show, that would be maybe something that would inspire people to say, hey, I like this series.
It may not be a bad idea for us to take our strongest students and make them put on a senior exhibition.
Yeah.
Like what's usually required at the college level. I mean, we definitely have some people in here that have enough work or will have enough work to be held to that kind of standard, so that you're putting on a one-person show. We could give you a whole side of the gallery, a whole section, and how nice would it be to have all this stuff up displayed where we could kind of look at it out there and keep it in a format where it could be appreciated. Of course, this is after it's been carefully documented.
Yeah.
So that you have those digital images and don't have to be quite so protective of this.
I would like to hear from Chris about where he thinks he's going, what direction you would like to go or you are wanting to go.
I'm not really sure. I want to go with animation. learn more of a fluid style and just work with stuff like that.
Okay. Are there any pieces here that really maybe accentuate that to really highlight where you'd like to go? Kind of show you that direction.
Not really with these, but I have some things that are not completely finished at home.
Okay. Of the pieces we have here, you know, what are you most satisfied with, or what do you like the most?
Probably the digital version of this.
Okay. All right. I can see that. And do you want to describe to me what the process of that was? How did you get to that point?
What do you mean?
How did you come about the finished product? What was the creative process?
I'm not really sure how to describe it.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you were inspired first by a portrait very similar to that,
Yeah.
and then from that point, from the original portrait, it was almost like a master study. And from that master study, how did you get to the graphic version that you created?
I just had an idea and went with it. Really.
Okay. So, looking at something that you really worked hard at, your basic portrait style, very good drawing, and then combining that with something more graphic, more digital. Do you see any other pieces that kind of add to that conversation?
I think the winged hoodie
Mm-hmm.
is similar in that it's a mixture of the graphic elements and my drawing.
There's a digital version of this too.
Mm-hmm. Well, should we go ahead and try to highlight maybe some of the pieces that we want to emphasize for future discussion or shows? Maybe if we were to pick out maybe the strongest.
I'm moving
I
stuff
like this
around.
one a lot too. Like when you could, like I don't know, it tells like a story I think, and it's kind of like an irony too.
Well, that's about women's rights.
Yeah.
And you could put something in there, graphic.
Now, I didn't see that until you said something. So it's just I know that you'd much rather say things with an image, but work on being able to put those things together, because now I see this completely differently, and
Yeah.
it stands out to me much more.
And you could edit like a text in there, and then it would have
Women's
that
rights.
graphic.
Well,
thing,
maybe
too.
the empty the empty bubble is the statement in some way.
Their voice in the media.
Yeah.
Agree.
But I like
Yeah.
that one a lot.
I'm snapping pictures and I'm just going to upload them. We had, there's a graduate from Lebanon High School. He graduated probably in '97. And I asked him to post something of his story on the Facebook page, and he did.